Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have a very informative, thought-provoking, and terrifying upload to share with you. Before we get into it, though, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below, as my merch is displayed directly under this video. Next, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, and the links to which are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? I had a whole different upload set for today. And then through the last 4 days, I've been going down a rabbit hole, and I'm pretty deep. But then, as I'm in this rabbit hole, my mind keeps kind of connecting certain details with different things that Victor talked about. Now, like I said in a couple of the uploads previous to this about his book, that I'm on the fence about him. Who wouldn't be, right? You'd have to be. Even if he was CIA, he'd want you to be. Then I started thinking and reading and researching more and more about different things that I talked about 2 days ago and yesterday. And a lot of what Victor said connected. And it was scary. And I'm going to share with you some things that absolutely is mind-blowing to me, and I think it may be mind-blowing to you as well. So, throughout the 2 years that Victor had been with the channel, a lot of people criticized him and, commented, saying things that he sounds like an old, idiotic man, this, and that, that he's some truck driver from Georgia, and different things. Now, throughout the time that he shared the info with us and talked about different locations, he would have had to have been researching those locations quite extensively to know certain places, certain people, this and that. So that was one thing that kind of stuck out. Then we were talking about his lab, or not his lab, but where these dogmen, werewolves, were kept for the breeding program. Underground, huge places underground, sometimes bigger than cities. And 2 days ago, I shared with you a very detailed, terrifying email from a former MI6 agent who discussed being in these underground facilities, these DUMBs, sometimes going on for miles, some housing aliens, some housing this, some for genetic research. And then there was a piece of information. It was so minute, but it literally stuck with me for the last 3 days. And I don't know if a lot of you heard it, or if you did, you just kind of passed it off because there was a lot of information shared that day. So I'm going to share with you that one very brief paragraph in a 16-page email. The workers said the Duluth facility goes down at least 7 levels. Level 6 is privately called Nightmare Hall amongst the workers. They tell of bizarre experimentation, multi-legged humans that look half human, half octopus, reptilian humanoids, furry creatures with hands like humans that cry like a baby and mimic human words. Also, a huge mixture of lizard humans in cages, several cages with winged humans, 3.5 to 7 foot tall bat-like creatures, and gargoyle-like beings. In level 7 are thousands of rows of human and human genetic mixtures in cold storage. Humanoid embryo storage vats with embryos in various stages of development. Now, as the majority of us who are interested in Sasquatch, Dogman, we know that the description of the creatures that I just mentioned here that were housed in the Duluth facility on level 6, Nightmare Hall, resemble cryptid sightings that have been around the country for years. Lon Strickler on Phantoms and Monster, he is, if not one of the foremost people that discusses and houses many winged cryptid encounters. He is fascinated by them, especially the ones that are just recently seen in Chicago within the last 2 years. What does that sound like? Several cages with winged humans, 3.5 to 7 foot tall bat-like creatures, and gargoyle-like beings. Half human, half octopus, reptilians. Interestingly enough, these other creatures, these rake-like creatures, and I despise that name, but I will use it here, or aka crawlers, resemble humanoid, pale white, monstrous strength, even though they're puny. Could these creatures have escaped from an underground facility? Possibly. Could they have been let out from an underground facility? I think that's more possible than the escape route. Then we'll go to the furry creatures with hands like humans that cry like a baby and mimic human words. Now, what does that sound like to you? To me, it sounds like either a mixture of Sasquatch encounters, Dogman encounters, or aka the Skinwalker encounters that are all over the country, which more or less resemble a Dogman to me than a Skinwalker. But Reddit has screwed up the cryptozoology field with creepypastas and BS like that, that people now think that skinwalkers are all over the country. There are shapeshifters of different Native American lore, but a skinwalker is a skinwalker. Navajo, Nedialushi. Probably didn't say it right, but I said it pretty close. I'm thinking that either Victor had a lot of time on his hands or is right on the money and is who he says he is. But then there's more. There's even more that is plausible truth for him being him. And a lot of people scoffed or criticized about the erasing of the memory. Bit by bit, piece by piece, not the whole memory, but just a little piece of it. But yet in that same email, talking about the underground facilities, the children abduction, aliens, and whatnot, there's this paragraph. On July 11th, 1934, the first treaty with the Greys from Orion occurred aboard a naval ship in Balboa. This was one of the most important events in human history because it thrust us into a role we were not prepared for, as regards to being a host to a malevolent extraterrestrial race. The United States federal government disregarded the Constitution of the U.S. by doing this and not telling the people. It was here that the agreement was first made between the Greys representing the reptilians from Orion and the representatives of the U.S. intelligence community. The treaty stated that in return for the Greys providing high technology, anti-gravity, metals and alloy, environment, free energy, and medical technology, the government would allow the Greys to proceed unhindered with human abduction. This was only if a list of abductees was provided to the government and the abductees returned unharmed with the memories of the events erased. So if the Greys were willing to give us anti-gravity, metals and alloy, environmental stuff, and free energy, wouldn't they most certainly give us weapons? Wouldn't they most certainly give us the capability of erasing memories in case something like an abductee remembered something? Seems plausible to me. But yet, to others, it didn't. Now, throughout this, I'm not saying I am 100% positive. I am saying while I went down this rabbit hole, things started to make sense to me. Things started to add up on Victor. CIA. Mind erasing. Underground base. Creatures in a breeding program. These are all a list of things that he discussed and shared with us. Then there's this email. My name is James Casbolt. I am a former MI6 agent that was involved in Black Ops during the mid-90s in London, England. I have blown the whistle on many things. However, there are certain areas I have not gone public with. This regards my involvement in genetic enhancement program run by the NSA in an area that I grew up in. This project involves creating super soldiers and super spies. This program is called Project Mannequin and was and is being jointly run by the NSA in an underground facility in Peasmore, Berkshire, in England. I have recovered memories of genetic enhancement procedures being performed on me in this facility. It has also been confirmed by contacts in the NSA that I was part of this program and may still be. I have NSA documents in possession that teach how to create super soldiers if you are interested in pursuing them. These documents are classified above top secret and are worth a lot of money. Again, I have not released them. The reason I am sending this email is because removed email me a few days ago. However, I cleared my email account and erased his contact details by accident. I'm going through a very painful and confusing deprogramming. Many more memories are coming out. Please, will you send forward this to Redacted and ask him to get in touch with me if possible. There is so much more to this than I can say now. I will forward you a couple more emails regarding my experiences Again, please forward these to redacted. In truth, James Casbolt. Then a lot of people criticized him for talking about the chipping of Dogman, werewolf, yada, 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 saying it's fiction, this and that. But Elon Musk is talking about implanting chips in us right now. How hard is it to believe something that is going on this very moment that I am sharing this with you? Not hard. Like I said, I went down a rabbit hole. My brain is trying to connect these pieces together. It's going 1,000 miles an hour, and I am confused, but I feel like I have some truth about Victor. And I don't know. I don't know where I stand on this part. But then there's more. James Casbolt talks about this. Members of this working group must all volunteer for memory erasing and brain surgery. After operations, members will have memories erased from analytical mind and be placed in civil communities. A rotation shift for operations will be in effect. One unit will be active while others are inactive. While the inactive unit swaps duties with the active unit, extraction and implantation sites on land will be used, crossover points. At extraction implantation sites will be operational with one unit awakening and the other unit going back to sleep within seconds. This will happen by the touching of hands, keywords, and other hypnotic and technological triggers. And we're still talking about chips and things being fake. Well, then there's this. Nanotech, human, alien, animal crossbreeding, eating the dead. Mid-80s, Yucatan. Small groups of children are flown from Brazil to Mexico regularly over this period of time. Blood vials are stored underground in this temple as well as various other machines. Cryotech and the blue tube containers of blue liquid for cloning. The blood vials contain ET/animal and DNA and human DNA infused with nanites. We are given them for drinking in this place and also injections. The AI system learns from us through the nanites when we ingest the blood. We learn from the AI system as well during this process. The end result is the ability to shapeshift and take on animal attributes for military ops. What? I can't even, it goes on. Dr. Green teaches me about power during this time. He encourages me to embrace my dark side. We start by killing birds together in the temple and drinking their blood. During this time, Dr. Green seems to shapeshift into a white-skinned vampire with pointed ears and teeth. His bone and head seem to grow larger. Not sure I see this, though, drugs or trauma. He looks a bit like an evil clown. Screen memories of clowns are put in afterwards to cover my memory up. These processes are preparations for the main ritual which will occur in this place on October 21st, 1984. So if this isn't starting to make sense to you guys, and it's only making sense to me that Victor is who he says he was, maybe that's not his name, and maybe not all of the tales that he told were real, But this James Casbolt guy has been verified as a former MI6 agent. And he's gone through different things that resemble things that Victor has shared with us. There's this last piece of this article that I've been reading. October 31st, 1984, Yucatan. Night of Samuel. I'm led into an underground chamber in the temple. I am told beforehand this event will be apocalyptic. And these type of rituals will decide the fate of the world in many ways. Rituals to bring about the end of the world, the old order being replaced. The structure of the large chamber is pyramid shape. An altar is in the middle of the room with 2 pillars on each side of the altar. Flames burn on top of each altar. 4 men in black robes stand on each corner of the geometric shape on the floor. A circle with something in the middle. I am taken and stood in the middle of the circle. I am directly underneath the point of the pyramid above us. They start to chant, and I can feel an entity being drawn down into the pyramid and into my body. I try to fight, but the chanting grows louder, and I cannot fight. This night is a test. The test involves asserting whether the multidimensional being brought down into the temple can be controlled. As I stand in the middle of the circle, the chanting from the people in the robes grows louder, and I feel myself being forced out of my body. The next thing I am aware of is looking down on my body from the air over 15 feet above my body. I see my body start to contort and spasm as it physically grows taller and bigger. I start to freak out about my identity when this happens, but I know I'm me and I am here in the air and this thing is down there. We are 2 separate life forms. I relax and calm down, then I realize this. I also realize something else now. I seem to be able to control this thing down below like a puppet under remote control. I can make him walk forward towards the guys in the robes near the left-hand side of the room. I make the entity walk backwards and then make him sit down. The entity inside the body wants to work with me, and he is under some kind of strict rules now. He has come to this place in a disembodied state. He was compelled to come here and is compelled to follow my command. The whole power thing comes to mind that Dr. Green taught me. I start to think of all things I could do with this body. 3 blonde women are brought into the chamber by black-clad men with dark plastic face masks on, same type worn by security who guarded us in the Canadian facility. The women are brought in front of the altar and put down upon their knees. A psionic struggle between myself and this creature now commences in my body as the creature tries to pull forward to attack the women. 4 men in robes join with the psionic struggle with chanting and arm waving. I manage to take control of my body during this process and come back into my body, which then goes back to normal. Myself and the women are then taken up the stairs to the left of the chamber by security guards. I am exhausted, put in a jeep and driven to a helicopter. Next memory is of some kind of airport in a room with Germans, Americans, and British men. Papers are signed regarding my transportation back to the United Kingdom. Then, as I'm going down this rabbit hole, I kick this rock over and find this, which is mind-blowing. In 2005, one of Russia's darkest secrets was brought into the light in the Scotsman newspaper. The story revealed that during his tyrannical reign, Joseph Stalin, the dictator of the Soviet Union, ordered the creation of a human-ape hybrid reported commission. Dr. Ivanov to create this new species so he could build his own army of super soldiers who were insensitive to pain, restraint, and indifferent about the quality of food they eat. Now, it wasn't just Russia doing this, because a prominent United States scientist has claimed researchers in Florida succeeded in breeding a human-chimp hybrid. Long-rumored 1920s research. Evolutionary psychologist Gordon G. Gallup Jr., who achieved renown for his pioneering mirror self-recognition experiments with animals in the 70s, says a former university professor told him the hybrid creature was born at an animal research laboratory where he once worked. One of the most interesting cases involved an attempt which was made back in the 20s in what was a first primate research center established in the United States in Orange Park, Florida, Gallup told the reporters. They inseminated a female chimp with human semen from an undisclosed donor and claimed not only that pregnancy occurred, but pregnancy went full term and resulted in a live birth. There is little reason to think such an experiment successfully took place, and plenty of reasons to believe it did not. But having an otherwise respected researcher make such a statement is drawing attention to this old rumor once again. Despite the significance of this purported breakthrough, Gallup, now a researcher at the University of Albany, says dictates of conscience over this creature did not take long to catch up with the scientists involved. In a matter of days or a few weeks, they began to consider the moral and ethic considerations, and the infant was euthanized. He told me this rumor was true, and he is a credible scientist in his own right. Researchers in the Soviet Union and China have both experimented with the idea. Russian biologist Aina Ivanovich Ivanov admitted the same thing in the 20s, but failed to achieve a successful pregnancy in a female chimp artificially inseminated with human semen. Reported later experiments involved human females were thankfully cut short due to the death of the intended male orangutan. Decades later, Chinese experiments in the 60s explored the same territory, but again, eventually failed. And then I found this. Now, everything that I've shared in the last couple of days involves just the United States, MI6, CIA, NSA. But this, with something that was shared in the initial email, will make sense once I put it all together, and this is why I say my brain is going 1,000 miles an hour. Many different sources tell about encounters with unknown civilizations on our planet. These are mysterious humanoid organisms in the sea and oceans, mysterious dwarfs, and creatures completely unlike humans. In the USSR, a whole unit ordered the KGB was engaged in the study of parallel civilizations. The most ambitious and major event that was described in reports of high-ranking officials is a direct proof of existence of the underground race in the planet, which developed in parallel to the existence of the underground race in our planet. In 1965, in the Kazakh SSR, tunneling work began at the Tikili mine. Drilling and blasting operations were carried out as usual until a serious collapse occurred. According to reports, this should not have happened, as there were no cavities in the area. Later, it turned out that a calculation error had occurred, and it turned out that a network of unaccounted tunnels passed through there. But the most amazing thing was ahead. The collapse exposed several floors of mines, tunnels, and caves. The size of the passages reached 3 to 3.5 meters, and the depth is still unknown or known but classified. The fact is that the explosion severely violated the integrity of this structure. In addition, the mysterious inhabitants of the tunnel suffered. Their height reached 2.5 meters. Now, 2.5 meters is 8 feet 2 inches, give or take. Their bodies were of an unnatural dark gray color. The hair on their head was red. The creatures were wearing no clothes. The body was covered in a dry layer of mud. Eyewitnesses and researchers to whom the bodies were delivered, and according to some sources, about 20 of the living creatures, noted that these creatures had never seen light. The eyes and the eye center of the brain and everything connected with the visual apparatus were completely absent from the inhabitants of the cave. The heart was 4-chambered and the limbs were 3-fingered. In addition, the brain of the creatures exceeded the human brain by 300 to 350 grams. The body exuded the strongest, disgusting odor. This was due to the fact that the cryptid organism did not have an excretion system. All impurities excreted through the skin in the form of a mysterious mucus. From 65 to 80, the study of these creatures was carried out in an underground hangar of the facility of the Ministry of Defense near the village of Orajar. It was here that the trail of these creatures ended. The further fate of the biomaterials was unknown. True, in the 90s, a retired officer from the Mekhinsky Border Detachment shared presumably the events related to the study of the cryptids. They were placed in a sealed pressure chamber on the lower 5th underground tier, according to the data, until 1987, closed for unknown reasons. There was a secret laboratory for the study of the bodies of aliens and cryptids. Most of those delivered died during the experiments. They did not tolerate clean water or sunlight. The background radiation in the tissues of the creatures was higher than the environment. This became the reason for the hypothesis that these creatures were the result of mutation after underground nuclear explosions at the Semipolensky test site. In 1980, all cryptids were destroyed, and the research data was highly classified. In addition, a division of the Ministry of Defense allegedly cleared the cryptids from the dungeons in Tekeli. Since they carried out the most serious threat after the cleanup, the object was mothballed for 4 years. Every few months, military specialists descended into the tunnels and mines. As a result, this mine was given the status of specially protected special facility. There are still many controversies surrounding the incident of 65. Researchers are also debating the level of intelligence of these cryptids, as their brains were comparable to those of a Neanderthal. Is a parallel underground civilization possible on Earth? Yes, I think so, and not just one. And this is the statement that I referred to prior to sharing that connected things for this to me in my head. Maybe I'm absolutely crazy, but I'm going to share it with you. After sharing all of this, I'm going to share this with you, and I'm going to share my theory. And if it makes sense, then it only makes sense that Victor is who he says he is, but is not really, if you know what I mean. The British, Russian, and United States government have become blood brothers and the best of friends because of the alien agenda. The Russian and U.S. Cold War was a feigned animosity, a sham, so these governments could develop nuclear weapon programs to counter the alien threat. The Cold War was a lie for the public to take the attention away from what the nuclear weapon program was really being developed for, not against Russia, but as a last resort against the Greys and the reptilians. So, when did Victor say we started catching these creatures? Does anyone remember? The 50s. I don't remember the exact date, and I don't really feel like digging through all my files, but the 50s. Why? Well, I believe that these creatures were here prior to, and I shared the Neanderthal concept with you guys. So I believe that they were here. And I believe that both our government and the Soviet Union and other governments, or maybe just ours, really saw these creatures as a line of defense against the alien races that our government made pacts with. Because after those pacts were made, I believe the government realized they made a deal with the devil. And at that point, there was no turning back. And I really, truly, my theory is that these pacts were made with these creatures from a different planet. We realized that we were at a very, very big disadvantage, and we needed something to kind of maybe tip the scale in our favor. So the government proceeded to do this breeding program, which I just shared with you some scientific proof of human and almost like a chimera. But that's not what these things are: the Dogman, the werewolf, the Sasquatch. So maybe Victor is real. Maybe his name's not Victor. Who knows? Probably not. Does he work for the CIA? My theory? Yeah. Has he shared with us everything? No. No, he hasn't. Just enough to where it's legit. To where things can just leak out slowly. I don't know why he chose me, but he did. But so many things that I shared with you this evening or this afternoon or whenever you're listening to it kind of ties in with what he has shared with us differently, but still connects. And to me, that's terrifying. I don't know about you, but it's almost terrifying to know that someone like Victor exists. I'm glad, if he is real, that I became friends with him. But if you think about why these things were used as a last line of defense, and they probably didn't realize in the time that they couldn't control them because they had to do everything in secret from the real enemy, which is not humans. It's something far worse than even a Dogman or a Sasquatch. Like I said, guys, I went down a rabbit hole real deep. I've been tired for the last couple of days. I shared this with you guys, but my dad's back in the hospital and not doing well. But with all that going on and what I've been sharing with you guys, my brain is just gelatin. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just, I don't know, barking up the wrong tree. But I wanted to share it with you. I wanted to display and give you what I have so you guys can make your own theory. And if it's like mine, that's cool. If it isn't, that's cool. At least we have our own theories, right? And with that, I'm going to bid all of you farewell. I'm going to thank you all for all of your support, your constant listening. You're just the greatest supporters of this channel. You guys are friggin' awesome. Thank you. I encourage us all to be kind to each other, even our enemies, even the people that we just can't stand. Be kind to them. And may the Great Spirit watch over all of us and guide us through our path of life.